up, guys, and welcome back to the next episode of The Lock. Now, if you guys have missed any of our episodes, feel free to check them out in the playlist down below, but listen to them on some of our other audio platforms. You get them early every Thursday as opposed to Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Of course, we also have our Discord down below if you'd like to join our community. Now, today we are joined by the 2016 VGC World Champion. Take it away, bro.
Do I not have a name?
You don't have a name because my co-host Key and my friend / Jamie Chimpact.
Say it one time. Say it one time for
my
us.
friend / Jamie Chimpact. Is that what you wanted? You want me to say Wolfie Glick? Is that what you wanted me to say?
Ooh,
Wow, that was quite good. That's like a 9.
Wow, I appreciate that, but I'm gonna keep calling you Wolf.
That's fine. That's totally cool. What's up, guys? My name is Wolf Glick. I play Pokemon, just like everyone else apparently. Is it really the next episode? You said welcome back to the next episode, but is it like?
Well, this is the current episode as of right now.
But it's the next one in terms of like us, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure. Anyway, what's up?
So we want to preface this episode by saying that this is not the first time we've tried to record with my boy, and it was a great episode. It's not that we're just like keeping it away from you, but unfortunately there were some issues with saving the audio, and we lost that episode completely. Yeah. So
somebody made a fucky wucky.
Yeah, and I don't want to call him Key, but
I wouldn't call him that either.
If you didn't like what I said, you could just tell me, my guy. Like, it's cool. You don't have to delete the whole thing.
Okay. So
my heart was broken.
Yeah, my heart was broken too. It was actually a really good episode.
It was one of my favorite discussions. But rest in peace, gone forever.
Hopefully, we can follow it up with this one. So, in this one, guys, we kind of want to focus a little bit on certain aspects of everything. But I think competition was a big thing, and the topic of competition that we want to focus on, at least started off with, was how do you deal with the highs and lows of competition? I know you said yourself that after being at the top for so long, or even making it to the top, and then having seasons where you just have all these lows. How do you deal with it? How do you cope? What do you do to get out?
Yeah, it's so I was telling Joey, this is something that I've been thinking about recently, because so for those of you who don't know, VGC is the official tournament format for competitive Pokemon, where the tournaments that Pokemon themselves put on, and they change the rule set every year. So VGC 11 was very different than VGC 12, etc. They allow different Pokemon, they allow certain items sometimes are banned, but mostly it's which Pokemon are allowed. But obviously, as anyone who's played in different Pokemon metagames can attest to, the Pokemon that are allowed are kind of the majority of the game. And the thing is, because the rules change every year, it's not probably as drastic a transition as from singles to doubles, or singles to VGC, but what works, what doesn't work, changes every year. And also you have to relearn at least part of the game every year. And when you think about the fact that Pokemon's already kind of an unforgiving game, with there's elements of RNG involved, and you can't always part of it is information managing, where you aren't always going to expect random stuff from your opponent. There's just a very small margin for error. And so with all that in mind, it's it's pretty rare that people and actually recently people have been more consistent, but for the majority of the time that I was playing VGC, with a few exceptions, it was really difficult to be consistent across seasons. So yeah, like Joey mentioned, even though I've done very well, I mean, I've won the World Championships, which is the highest tournament, the biggest tournament there is, and that was my goal for the entire time. There have also been long periods of time where I didn't do well. And so I think for me, the thing is, when I'm thinking about dealing with that, and having experience being at the top and being literally the best in the world at something, and then following up with poor performances. And I was actually second in 2012, and then had a super bad 2013 season. So I have some experience doing badly. But for me, I think the thing is that I think there's kind of two aspects of it, where the first thing is that even when I've done badly, I still had the fire, the desire to do well, and so even though it's really discouraging, because I didn't do well because I wasn't trying, I've always tried whenever I've competed. I've always put in the time, I've prepared a lot. I put in the time, and I work really hard, but it doesn't always pay off. And so I think part of it is that when I'm frustrated and I lose and I don't do as well, or I get, I don't do as well as I want to, even though I'm frustrated, I don't lose that passion, that desire to still do well. But back in the day when I would lose, I remember 2015 nationals, I had no team. I went and I got my team I decided what I wanted to use like very last minute, and I just kind of threw something together and didn't have any practice with it and just like went into the tournament. And I finished in the top 8, which is like really good. It's a super tough tournament. Top 8 is like a pretty big accomplishment. And I remember being frustrated and angry that I hadn't won. Like I used to be of the mindset that like if I didn't win the tournament, then like I wasn't like doing my best, you know?
All your prep was for nothing. Like we'll probably get into that as well later, like topping versus winning as well. But keep going. Sorry to interrupt.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly it. Like I felt that I could win any tournament. So if I wasn't winning the tournament, then I was like frustrated with myself, even though I had no prep. And like, that's probably the tournament I prepared the least for ever. And I still, made top 8. And that's like a really big accomplishment. I'm like, obviously like looking back, I'm proud of that performance. But so I think part of it is over the years, like I've become, and there's, two sides to everything. I've become more comfortable, like not winning and like not doing my best because, if you like when you're harder on yourself, it might increase your desire to like your ability to perform more, but it also makes the like losses harder. And so that's one aspect I think is like the desire to keep like winning even when things don't go your way. And the other thing is that like, I think like having value from the game itself and from the community that isn't just tied to winning. Like at this point, I look forward to tournaments because of the competition, obviously, and I enjoy competing, but also because of like the people that I know there, and it makes it easier. Like at some point, it's hard to be upset when you're surrounded by people, you like. So that's a very long-winded answer, but that's
it's okay. I mean, the point of it is to hear from you. You can go, Guy.
Basically, my question is in having consistency from one year to another is, I feel like at the highest level of competitive play in pretty much anything, skill kind of loses value as far as how far it can take you, and you kind of rely a lot more on your preparation, metagame knowledge, and things of that sort. Like, would you say that the most important aspect of like carrying your consistent performance from one year to another is the preparation, your dedication, or is it generally the more skilled players that end up on top?
I would say neither, actually. Like it's so like the way that it works is I prepare a lot for pretty much every tournament I attend, and it doesn't have any correlation with my results. Like sometimes I'll prepare less and like do poorly, and sometimes I'll do well and I'll prepare more and I'll do poorly. So preparation really isn't it. I think for VGC, it's a lot of it's not about how hard you work, it's about how smart you work. I think that's a really big thing. And in terms of skill, so because VGC's format changes every year, the skills that are rewarded also change every year. So some years value board position more, and some years value like offense more, and some years value I don't know, setup or like different. It's there's a lot of different things that go into Pokemon, and there's a certain balance like every year that is probably optimal or at least good, right? And because the rules change every year, I think that's part of the reason why people have trouble being consistent across formats, because what's rewarded in 2017 is very different than what's rewarded and what you need to do to win in 2018. And this is just the playing aspect. Like, we're not even talking about the building necessarily, but just in how you play. Like, when you consider building and the fact that like you have to make your own teams and like decide what you want to use, and that different formats like reward different things in team building as well, I think it makes sense why it's so difficult to be consistent, because you try to understand a metagame, and it's natural to kind of carry over what you know from one year to another, but oftentimes like you need to kind of take a step back and reevaluate it as if it's a different game, which is something that I'm not great at and something that's just difficult in general.
That's such a good point that I wanted to bring up. Like you said that sometimes you might have been proficient in board positioning last time, but in the the next year, that doesn't matter as much. But it's more so because it's such an offensive metagame, it's more so getting a hit off before your opponent. And I think that in order to deal with highs and lows as well, you need to find out why you're losing, right? You need to find out why you're losing. And again, like sometimes it is your prep, but sometimes it's your inability to adapt to it. Like if you just won, right? You just won 2016 Worlds because, this is just for me from watching. Yeah. You were able to build a team that was not only anti-meta, but you can position yourself in a way to not give your opponent very many openings versus you, right?
Exactly.
But in the next way, right? In the next way that you went into, now the Pokemon are so much stronger, which is not really relative to the term. This is just an example. But now they're so much stronger, and you're doing what you were doing, but because your Pokemon can't take as many hits now, you're still losing, right? Before, you can afford to sack something, take a hit, and get something else in to win the game. But now it's different because of Beast Boost from Kartana. I'm just giving an example. That's an ability that, gives you the +1 attack when you pick up a KO, or a +1 in the highest stat, which in Kartana's case is attack. So sometimes you could use speed. But so in that case, I think realizing why you're losing, and this goes in any game, I feel, is one of the biggest steps to getting better. You need to look at that and you need to figure out, okay, this is why I'm losing. What do I change to make this change, right? And that's just something you have to work on, right? So that's something you just said about that just really made that click.
I think something that is just lesser discussed is also the importance of understanding why you're winning. And people don't examine their wins as closely as they look at their losses. And I feel like there's a lot to learn even whenever you win a game. Like sometimes you win a game and there's just no reason you should have. And it's good to know like how to handle that position better in future games.
Yeah, the saying that says you learn a lot more from a loss than a win isn't always true in a sense. And I find myself personally, because I commentate some of my tournament games, even when I win, I'll find myself saying, all right, so in this play looked good here, but in hindsight, this play was better. And I have to catch myself on that. And I will find myself, especially when I win, watching my replays 20, 30 times in a row. Not only because I'm proud about it, but I also, into the next game, I want to take it to the next level. And I don't want to make the same mistake I've made here. So I feel like Key made an excellent point there. I agree 100%.
I agree as well. And the other thing is that, hello? Sorry. My computer just shut down.
Cut this out, don't worry.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. The other thing so Aaron Traylor is a VGC player, and he's one of my like best friends in the game and in general as well. And something that he said to me once that really, really stuck with me, and that I actually carry a lot into like my like non-Pokemon life as well. He said to me once, like, he was like, listen, Wolf, you can play well and still lose, and you can play poorly and win. And so when you're looking at how you did, like, you can't just look at the result. You also have to look at like how you played, And so I think that kind of, it ties into what you were saying. Like, you could win, but like maybe you saw that like there was room for improvement, or like, sometimes you'll get lucky, and sometimes you'll lose and you did not everything right necessarily, but like you were playing well overall. And like, yeah, you can't just look at like the result, because you need to like, when there's luck and randomness involved, and like you need to look at more of that, because the idea is over time, if you play well, you'll win more than if you were to play poorly. Even though in the individual case you might lose even though you're playing well, or you might win even though you're playing poorly.
I was on mute when I was trying to reply, but that's an excellent point. And I have an example of like, also just playing a ton will eventually show results, but it won't be consistency, right? It won't like, if I play 100 games, I'm going to eventually win a lot of them, I'm sure, right? But it doesn't show consistency where it matters. And I'll take the example of there's this Pokemon tournament called the Official Ladder Tournament, where you ladder on Pokemon Showdown, and it allows you to basically, if you hit top 4 out of the people that are playing, you get to qualify for the actual tournament. So there's some people that basically just had the time and were able to play a bunch of different games and ended up hitting top 4, but they did absolutely terrible when the actual tournament played, because they were so used to just playing and laddering, and they just had the time, right? Like, it didn't equate, it didn't carry over, because they weren't able to. Well, first off, the ladder is completely different, right? In the tournament, I feel. The mindset, how you play, and that's a big thing too. I think we could probably have a whole discussion about like having that same mindset going into different things. But yeah, just how your results definitely don't matter. Like, there's tons of examples of people winning complete tournaments and then going like X and 7, or not VGC, but like X and whatever in a tournament, and like, how did this happen? Like, where's the same person that just won this last game? And like, it's crazy, especially in a game with so many variables, like you said. It's really interesting to think about.
Yeah, I actually remember bombing nationals. I went like 5 and 4, and at the in 2016, before I won Worlds, and I remember I was number 1 both on the Battle Spot ladder and on the Showdown ladder, and then I went 5-4 at nationals. And like, yeah, I think ladder is useful if you have to understand what the ladder is. And the fact is that you can just play a bunch of games, and like over time you're going to have like one win streak if you stay like roughly like towards the top. Like, eventually you're going to have a win streak that gets you up there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do well in tournament, because you can't just play until like you do well. You only have a couple games
for sure
in order to get up there. Yeah,
for sure. And there's a totally different thing too. Like, ladder's best of 1 versus best of 3 in tournaments. Like, there's you're not using your adapting skill unless you're getting the same people over and over, and then you finally use the sets. Like that it just makes a completely different mindset. So I kind of like hinted towards that, but What is your mindset when you casually play versus when you play in tournaments? Do you find yourself doing the same thing? Do you have, like, for example, if I'm playing on the ladder, I might be saying, okay, this is casual. I don't care as much. I'll be more aggressive because there is less risk or there is less incentive. How do you feel when you do those sort of things?
I think that the way I ladder probably isn't great. Like, I think that's something I need to like evaluate about myself and like work on moving forward. And for two reasons. Number one, I think I'm more aggressive on ladder, and I've actually been working to be more aggressive in tournament because, like, normally when I'm aggressive, it works out. Like, it's pretty rare that that I'll like be aggressive and that like it won't work out. It's just that I have trouble being aggressive in general because like my playstyle the way that I try to approach Pokemon is I like to think of it as a game where, like, you know, the way that I would play Pokemon perfectly, like in my perfect world, if I was like, you know, the very best version of myself and playing perfectly all the time, is I would make moves that regardless of what my opponent did, I would always like win, which is, I mean, obviously really hard, but that's kind of how the 2016 team was built. Like, it was built to cover, because the metagame was so much like more limited because of the inclusion of restricted Pokemon and a dominant archetype in Xerneas and Groudon. Because we knew basically what team we were going to fight going in, it was able, because we had the time in advance, to build a flowchart that regardless of what the opponent did, we knew it to like what move to make in every situation. And that way we would always come out on top, right? And so I think that worked really well in a format where you knew what team you were going in against and like you had a way to beat it. But in most Pokemon on the fly, where like it's not as standard, like you haven't even like changes in movesets or spreads or items can change the game. Like it's not really realistic. But I still have trouble getting out of that mindset where I'm still trying to kind of like flowchart perfectly. But when I'm playing on ladder, I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like they're probably gonna switch here, so like I'll attack, you know. And so that's part of it. And also just, I think I ladder too much. Like when I'm preparing for a tournament, like people always find my alt in advance. And I don't even know how at this point, but like people always know what I'm running before I even show up to the tournament. So I think I need to like stop laddering because it's an information game and it's really annoying. You know, people like know my team just based on like how like, and I use an alt and stuff, but they still find me. So I don't know, but I think in general my ladder practices are bad, but I definitely have a different mindset, and I think that's bad because if you're preparing differently than how you're actually playing, then you know you're kind of wasting
you're wasting your time. Exactly,
yeah.
You're wasting your time because it's not going to actually show as you're actively playing. And I feel like that's part of the thing. Also, like figuring out why you're losing and going forward. If you're playing aggressively but you're not, using that as well in tournament play, it's just a waste of a turn, right? And I feel like people will be blindsided by one way they play and like, oh, okay, this works on ladder, so this will work all the time, right? And then they'll be punished for it by people that might play the way you like to play. Like I like to do, right now I try to go for the least risk, highest reward type of play. But I'm also, when I need to be a high risk, high reward player, but that's after, assessing that, okay, this is the only way I can win this game. After, taking a step back and looking at it.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's something that also comes over time as you start to play. Do you think that like over the years has your mentality in prepping for a tournament as well going in, like just changed in general too? Like I feel like you kind of touched upon that, how it changes with depending on the year, right? Because some years may require more balance, some years might require more aggression. Is this something like you've always done throughout the years? And this is me asking. We can go back to the topic after, but this is me asking just for because I have you here. Since you started versus now, have you been taking it the same way?
No, well, my play style and pretty much everything about how I approach the game has changed a lot over the years. I mean, I started when I was 15 years old. I was a freshman in high school. Back in 2011, it's 9 years later at this point. I guess 8 years, but yeah, like it's definitely changed a lot. I used to actually, when I started, I used to play like very read based. Like, I was using, it was 2011 and I won regionals and nationals, and I was using this hard Trick Room team. And, I was super read based. Like I have a pivotal moment it was like round 3 of my first regional, and it was single elimination, best of 1. So, if you lost, you were done. And I had my Emboar and Trick Room against like a Druddigon. And I remember I Flare Blitzed the Druddigon as it switched to Amoonguss. And like I won the game based off that because, if Amoonguss gets in under Trick Room, you're in trouble when your whole team is Trick Room based. And yeah, I used to be very much more aggressive, much less overall game plan. But as the years went on, I started to veer more towards playing safe. And it's kind of ironic because sometimes the best offense is the best defense is a good offense, and I think that's very true in Pokemon, where if you're taking knockouts, then they can't KO you in return. So in terms of prep and how that's changed, I always say that when I'm preparing my best, when I'm like doing my best Pokemon preparation, I'm playing almost none, but I'm thinking about it a lot. Like part of the reason I think I won Worlds actually is I like didn't ladder at all, because also as the years have gone on, I've gotten a lot busier, so I don't have as much time. Like when I was, a freshman in high school over the summer, like I wasn't doing anything. So like I remember playing on Pokemon Online, and there'd be like 4 or 5 people online at most, and like I would just like ladder all day against them. Well, like, but I'd have to wait like half an hour in between games because the season was basically over and like nobody was online. But I would just like play a lot. But when I was preparing for Worlds in 2016, I worked as an RA for 3 years in college, and we had RA training from like 8 a.m. until like 8 or between 8 and 10 p.m. every day. And so I couldn't be playing when I was in training. But I remember I was like thinking so much about it. And I still have the notebook where I was like writing notes, and I was like, I don't know if you do this, Joey, but like I'll like play in my head, especially when I'm trying
all
to like flowchart. Yeah. Like they do this, I do this, but like that doesn't work. So like what if they do, like if they do this and I do this, like, I mean, like,
yeah, sometimes I crush them too, just because it makes me feel better.
That's how I try to flowchart. Like I try to solve matchups like that. And so, yeah, like it takes a lot of like self-control to not, at least for me, to just not like throw myself at the ladder and just, ladder a bunch. Cause that's like more rewarding, or more immediate instant gratification. But when I'm really preparing well, I think I'm playing not very much, but I'm like playing in my head a lot, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. You're planning it out. You're thinking it out.
Mm-hmm.
I take the same approach, for certain tournaments as well. But again, you talked about like in 2000, like earlier, it was best of one. So, I mean, best of one, you kind of have to risk, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
If you play safe, you can just lose. I mean, you can, same thing with playing risky, but I think there's a lot more to lose if you're not KOing their Pokemon, as you said, versus actually are. Like if you're letting something in, that's still a positioning type of thing as well. If you think about it, like if you let an Amoonguss at that point, it would be a terrible position for you. So you made the play that didn't allow that position to work out. Though it could have lost you the game.
Yeah,
I suppose as well. Go ahead, bro.
In the vein of your tendencies in regards to playing the game, do you think that there is some disadvantage in being a like more well-known player, that people can kind of like study your specific matches and your tendencies and like try to abuse it in matchups versus you? Or is it like, do you find that you play so in such a different way each time that it's not really abusable in that way?
I would say it's a disadvantage, but I don't think people really study me in order to like beat me. At least not that I know of, but I guess they probably wouldn't tell me if they did, but I don't really feel like people do that. But I do think it's a big disadvantage because VGC, more than anything, because you're locked into using the same team for the entire tournament. Like, I think that out of everyone in the tournament, at any tournament, I'm probably the player most likely to have, like, for like any given person to know their team. Like, and also because I'm often put on stream round 1. And so because of that, like, like it's just like, it feels very easy for people to, not easy, but I guess like I feel like there's, part of VGC is it's an information game, and so players will share with their friends like the people they go up against, and yeah, like I feel like my team travels more quickly than most, and probably because I'm a high profile player. But that kind of comes with the territory, I'm not necessarily I'm not upset about it. I mean, it's definitely a drag and a disadvantage, but it's it's just the nature of the game, Yeah,
I mean, obviously having your stuff on screen, and then somebody being able to text their friend, "Hey, this dude he's running that tech HP flying on Amoonguss for Heracross. Be careful."
Do people do that? Does that sound like in singles?
I mean, I'm sure at a point.
Yeah, okay. I guess you get to Spore.
yeah. I mean, Weezing at a point ran HP flying in
That's
Gen
crazy.
4 review.
That's
Heracross
crazy.
got banned, though. Heracross got banned. I mean, it's all about adapting to it as well.
I want to be on the podcast,
man. So, as far as information management goes, are you like that, like in terms of real life problems too? Right? Like if you have to solve something, will you take it head on, or will you find yourself? And I just want to know how you apply it. Will you take it head on, or will you actually do your research and come in, or do you feel like the type of person you are is one that is able to adapt well enough to just take on problems? And I'll give my thoughts on that after as well.
Yeah, well, for me, I think the way that I approach Pokemon, kind of just by doing it for so long and caring about it so much, I think it's kind of like it's very similar to how I approach problems in real life. But yeah, so it kind of, I guess it depends on the problem, right? Because by nature, like I'm very much kind of I do a lot based on instinct. I will I don't normally prepare for things. Like for interviews, I almost never prepare for them. Like I just go in and I'm like, okay, like, because part of it is that I feel like I do pretty well under pressure, which is part of the reason I like competing. And so, yeah, part of it is that like, I don't always like prepare for things. And so, I'll just like be like, okay, like I think I can just figure this out in the fly. But depend like for some problems, and it's hard to think of an example, but like things that aren't necessarily like deciding what to do versus like doing something, if that makes sense. Like doing things, I'll normally just like go in and just do it. But if it's like a problem that I'm trying to solve or something that I think like requires thought, or I'm not sure what the best thing to do is, like when it's something that's not cut and dry. Okay, here's what it is. The difference between going into something and I know what to do and I just have to do it, I don't normally prepare. But if I need to decide what to do, then yeah, I try to gather as much information as I can. I try to think like in the same way that I approach solving Pokemon games, like, you know, starting by eliminating options, right? Like if I Flare Blitz here, then Xerneas gets in for free and then he'll GM Instinct and I'll lose the game, right? So therefore I can't Flare Blitz, meaning I don't have to think about that option anymore, right?
Yeah. If I put this load on the car, you know, is that my best possible play to allow me to
exactly.
later? Yeah.
Yeah, like if I clean my room now, then like I'll be late to going out with my friends, so then like, and I don't want to be late to going out with my friends, so therefore like I'm not gonna clean my room, you know, like even stupid stuff like that. Mom, if you're listening, my room's almost clean, don't worry. Yeah, like it's very similar. Sorry, I could have I could have said that in less words, but
no, dude, it's feel free to talk. I mean, I know one thing I like about you is that you do talk, and that's something I do.
I've talked before.
Yeah, and that's
it's one of my favorite things about you is
like
your ability to communicate.
Yeah, I like that you're
via language.
Yeah. I feel like I'd have a hard time hearing you if you were mute. But like that's true.
That might be true.
No, but I do find myself doing the exact same thing, and I mean maybe it'd be weird like if I was actively speaking what I'm thinking as well, like in terms of narrating what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, I'm going to turn left here because there's a person approaching me pretty quickly on my right, and I want to get out of the way while avoiding this. Like obviously, if I was saying that out loud, it sounds weird, but I feel like you do apply a lot of skills, especially because this is something that has followed you for a lot of your life since you were like what. Like
15,
a little kid,
14. Yeah, a kid. Yeah, I mean, I play, and that's just competing. Like, I played Pokemon since I was like, 10 probably.
Yeah. I mean, it's just something. It's a whole part of your life. And okay, so this is a less competitive driven question, and more so going more into you as a person. And Keith, feel free to cut me off completely if you want to still do certain. Oh, the fire truck! No.
Oh, sorry. I live right near an emergency route. 10 emergency routes.
It's all right. It's all gonna be gone. Shout out to our editor in chief, Key. Incredible.
Yeah, just delete the episode.
Yeah, Key. Maybe
Do you think that I'm sure Pokemon has had a positive impact in your life, and I would like you to talk a little bit about that too out on your real life. But you think it's also given you a negative impact? And I'll follow up with that question. I feel like this is more of I don't want to say normie type of thing, but I know that for me there were some points where like, why don't you get out of your dreamland and actually do something with what you're doing? Yeah, like exactly, like type of thing. Like, do you feel like it has had a negative impact on your life? And you could say no, and you can just talk about why it has a positive one. I mean, I truly believe it hasn't, but I want to know a little bit more about you.
Yeah. Overall, I would say Pokemon has been like one of the most positive things in my life, like ever. I've gotten just very, very, very lucky. And I feel like a lot of how I've developed and the way that I am now is in large part because of not just Pokemon as a game, but like the experience of competing and like, wanting to be the best in the world and like all the experiences and like meeting people who I would never have met. Like there's people who I've met through the game who had, enormous impacts on my life. And, to think that I wouldn't have met them. And I mean, like Marcus is a really key example, where like Marcus is like someone I admire and look up to and like really care about a lot. And he's someone who like, he's really, really brilliant and had, we've been friends for like since 2012, which is, 6-7 years at this point. And I never would have met him or, like Aaron Traylor, Aaron Zhang, like I've met so many incredible people who have had such a positive impact on my life that even without the game, like discounting all of the competing and everything, like just those people have had a really big impact on my life. I do think there have been times, and I do feel like I've grown out of it as I've gotten older. But there were definitely times where I think I developed some unhealthy like tendencies because of the game. Like I'm trying to think, like there were times, especially 2015 Nationals, as I already talked about. I remember I was like really unhealthily stressed for that tournament. Like I remember being really, really, like really stressed out, which is like not good. And there's definitely been times where like, I'm a firm believer in like there's two sides to every coin, and like some traits, things that are negative in some situations are going to be positive in others, and it goes the other way as well. Like some things like the way like I am very, the way that I look at the world is very like I try to solve problems. Like that's a lot of the way that I approach like my life. I think about I want to understand what's going on, and then I want to figure out what the best thing to do is. And so one example is I remember I had a friend who I like was not super supportive of, because like the way that my worldview works is I try to I see a problem and I'm trying to solve it. But that was a situation where like my friend didn't necessarily need me to help solve the problem. Like they just needed someone to like listen to them and like be there for them, and be supportive. And there was actually a period, like something that I really value as a person is self-improvement. I think that I'm somebody who like, I didn't start out like great, like I definitely I've worked really, really hard on myself, and I'm really happy with who I am now. But there have definitely been times where some of the things that I don't like about myself, like, I can be stubborn. I like this one key example that I'm bringing up is that I wasn't like, there was a period where I like wasn't super supportive of people. If I did like, when people just needed me there, like to be there as a support, like I wanted to help them solve the problems. And it came from a place of like care, like I was trying to help people I cared about. I was trying to like be there for my friends by helping them get out of their situation. But sometimes people have to make their own decisions. They have to make their own mistakes. And like, it's not for me to like solve, And I think part of the reason why I was so adamant about the way that I was approaching things is because of the way that I approach Pokemon. So there's probably lots of examples I can find where like the way that I approach Pokemon didn't always translate to real life, or like sometimes it was negative, but overall I would say it's very, very positive. And I don't think I developed any like right now I can't think of any real reason why Pokemon is like negative in my life,
Yeah, I'm sure like you doing a lot of online, especially with the fact that the type of Pokemon you play encourages you actually going out and making friends with people too, in a sense.
Yeah.
Whereas me would be more, mine is more in my house in the comfort of my own home where I can play. Not that I don't
nice hermit Pokemon.
Well, I mean, I only went to 3 tournaments for like my first few years playing VGC. That's like 3 weekends, like it was still a lot, like very online based,
So a lot of online friends, and I feel like, I feel like you, the whole wanting to solve it, like you said, does transition a lot to you actually playing this game, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're constantly playing a game where the idea is to solve the game, right? You have to figure, and in that case, solving the game is obviously making it to the end with one of your Pokemon alive, right? Whereas your opponent doesn't have any, at least one of your opponent's Pokemon alive. But yeah, sometimes, I mean, I think that's less of an issue with you and more so like how whoever you were talking with deals with a problem. Sometimes some people want solutions. Sometimes people just want to be able to vent. And I don't think that's necessarily a negative, something the negative that came with Pokemon, or even because of Pokemon you approached it that way. I think that's just how your friend might have actually did it. I just wanted to know that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not necessarily that my friends like were like wrong or being dumb or anything. I think it was just that I wasn't aware of how our style was communicated or what I needed to provide. Yeah,
and that comes with just interaction as well. That's a whole different topic as well. That I feel like we could get into.
This is a bit of a half-baked concept here, but you just kind of made me think of the fact that VGC is more physical, interactive. You have to actually be in the person's presence that you're playing. Do you think that could have some effect on how toxic the community is versus like an online community like Smoke? I feel like that you can't really be as toxic to somebody in real life as you can
whenever
you're losing online.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in general, like, I mean, I've heard criticism of people saying the VGC community is I don't even know if I've heard that. Like, I'm sure people out there like think that, but in general, I find the community to be like really. Also, like when you're talking about a community, it's like, what do you mean? Like when I think of the VGC community, I think of like my friends, right? And like because I don't interact with like the majority of people, just because like I'm only one person and there's like thousands of people who play. But yeah, I think in general, like the VGC community and like what I see on Twitter, like there's definitely. It's not perfect, right? There's faults, there's flaws. Like it could be better for sure. But in general, like yeah, I mean, I think the fact that like you go to tournaments, you have to interact with people. Like not that it stops people from being like dumb like most of the time, but like I think it definitely plays at least a little role where like people are brave behind the computer, and it's easy to like be annoying like when there's no real consequences, but when you have to see these people in person,
hands in pocket, heads down.
Yeah, like for real, yeah, like people like, you know, and I just being a higher profile player, like there are people out there, and this drives me crazy. Like there are people out there who like hate my guts and have never interacted with me online or in person. But those people like always like they like, you know, they're like avoid eye contact, like stay away from me in person. And you know, like they talk so much trash on Twitter, and like it's just like, I don't know, like I don't understand how you can hate someone who you've never interacted with like that.
Yeah, that's such an interesting concept too, because they either hate you based on something that someone else might have said, so that's already, you know, that's biased towards that person, right? I mean, and we don't always try to be like that, but we're just naturally biased towards ourselves. If I felt like in a situation where you put your hand on me was aggressive, but you were just putting your hand on me to say hi, you know, that's like that might just change how they say about like, yeah, Wolf will slap you if you talk to him, or don't get on his bad side. He's a terrible person. Don't do that, right? But then I heavily feel like you need to make your own opinions and be the own judge of things based on your own interactions. Obviously, that's case by case too, because there are times where, you know, if something necessarily was so bad or illegal in a sense, like, okay, it's all right for me to maybe make some sort of judge, because we're naturally, that's how we are, right? We're naturally going to judge people. Yeah. But like in that case, I feel like that's a lot. Like, why would they hate you? Like, is it, and sometimes also people hate success as well.
Yeah. Honestly, that's the truth. Like
jealousy is a big thing.
I don't know if it's jealousy per se, but like, I think the fact that VGC, in a sense, anyone can win, you know, like anyone can beat anybody else. And so I think because of that, like in general, the community has a hard time to like seeing people who are successful, you know, it's not just me. Like I remember when Aaron was blowing up on YouTube, like people like were really nasty towards him, like for no reason, just because like they resented his success, you know, they, you know, they were really like childish towards him. And I've experienced it a lot as well over the years, but like, it's not just me, but it's definitely one of the negative things I think about just like the nature of the game.
Yeah, I feel like envy was the word I tried to use, not jealousy.
Yeah,
and not envy.
Yeah, not envy, not envy, but envy. Yeah, for sure. People will definitely. I don't know why. Maybe it's like, okay, why am I not successful? And in Pokemon, I guess it's hard as well to not be a little bit angry, because like, well, maybe if I played the 6-year-old that was using maybe I would have made it to finals. But no, I played Brendan, who is literally master's material, but is only here by age. You know what I mean? And I do really bad about Brendan as well. I
love Brendan. Yeah. Brendan's amazing. Yeah.
But you know, I played this guy who's literally chilling, and I have to, like, this is my first year in VGC. I got beat down by this kid. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of things that come to mind in that. And you raised a really interesting concept as well, that the community is really based on what you're involved with, right? Mm-hmm. People will say the Pokemon community is in shambles, but like
I don't know any of those guys. Say that.
And we know who would say that, but I'm not. We know who has said that at a point.
Yeah.
But that's really relative to where you're involved and what you see. Like, I'll see, and I'll just use an example, but I'll see a list of, like, you know, top 30 Pokemon YouTubers, right? Mm-hmm. Or Poketubers.
I'm never on there. So sad.
Yeah, I'm never on there either. But it's cool. And I've been in the community for what? I'm going on 9 years now, 10 years almost.
Damn.
10 years next year. But
if you don't catch shinies, dude, you're not a Pokemon.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Like that's it. Like some people consider the Pokemon community to be the people who are using top 10. Some people consider my people and my subscribers might consider the Pokemon community just the competitive side who upload Showdown and maybe the occasional Wi-Fi battle. Your people might be considered the competitive community strictly VGC, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really relative to what you are. So I guess that does make sense why, you know, you don't always see, man, the community sucks. Like, it's not true. It's just,
not my people.
Yeah, it is what it is at that point. But
I don't even feel like a Poketuber, to be honest. Like, I mean, I don't really interact with any of the other, like, quote unquote Poketubers, you know, apart from like draft leagues here and there. It's like I don't know, like people, especially like there's obviously a lot of drama recently, and I was like, I don't interact with any of these people, you know, not any of them, like depending on what you're talking about, but it's definitely interesting. And the same with VGC, like people be like, wow, like the VGC community is so toxic, and like I see what they're talking about, and I was like, I don't even know these guys, you know, like I don't know, like I know who they are, but like I'm like when I think, like I always tell, you know, my non-Pokemon friends, like I'm like, yeah, like the community is what really keeps me there. It's the people. But I'm not talking about every person, everyone on Twitter who's like gonna, you know, say something offensive. Like I'm talking about like the friends who I've made and the people who I know, you know. And maybe that's not, I'm not saying that's right of me. Like I can definitely see when people, you know, I think it's kind of like squeaky wheel gets the oil, you know. Like it's if you make a lot of noise, good or bad, and most noise is bad, you're gonna get noticed, and you're gonna carry the whole label of the community. But yeah, I don't know. I think the people that I interact with and my friends, and even like the people, not just like the people I know well, but just the general, most everyone I interact with through the community is really great. But yeah, of course, there's bad eggs everywhere.
For sure. And I think it's all about, like you said as well, you don't even know half the people. Like me, when I think about VGC, I think about the people I've interacted with. Mm-hmm. You, Aaron, you know, Marcus, Champa, Angel. I don't want to. If I don't name everybody, I feel like there's going to be some anger and some resentment.
Nah,
if I don't name you, if you've been in my car or I've given you the time of day, I like you. Okay?
I've never been in your car, dude. We've never met. Can you believe that?
We didn't meet at Worlds.
Mm-mm.
Oh, I was watching you.
Wow.
I was actually writing down every play you were going to make as you were doing it. I was trying to see how I would do it as well. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But sorry, during the time, because you were watching at Duncan's house. Wow, we've never met. But even then, I've had pleasant interactions with you, right? So if someone came to me and said, Wolf is just a mean person who doesn't care about people who talk or who give them the type of day, and I said, well, I've never had the interaction. They say, well, you have X amount of subscribers, so you probably cares. And I'm like, well, I mean, Wolf is just a genuinely kind person, I feel, who is like, even when I tried to get into VGC, I asked him, hey man, can you give me a team, but can you also teach me like how to use it? And yeah, I've never had those. Like, I don't think I've had a non-pleasant interaction with you as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, same. I mean, because I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure you have haters. Like everyone with eyes in them has haters. Although, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, if you don't have haters, I guess no. I don't want to say you're not doing something right because I don't like that thing either.
Yeah.
Like if I'm not doing something right, I'm like, duh, I don't have haters. Like if I was doing something right, I wouldn't have hate. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
People don't like certain reasons. Maybe they just don't like my casual approach. Take it away, Key. Take it away.
Yeah, sorry.
Case Victory recently had tweeted something to the effect of like, if I tweeted what I was about to tweet, I would have been jumped at the next event.
Oh boy, did not see
so
that.
Really, that's what sparked my my question there. I was realizing, like, if there was the threat of me beating somebody's ass for talking shit to me at a Pokemon tournament on Smogon, it probably wouldn't happen as often.
I can't remember any time there's been actual violence, but people just don't like confrontation in general. It's not just like physical violence. It's just
the only thing I know is the Jamba Juice being thrown at I think Angel.
I kind of remember that. That was
by maybe Trista, but even then, like her example, she wasn't a fan of me because of how I portrayed myself, but our issues, I think, have been resolved since.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I like Trista a lot.
She's a nice person.
Yeah.
Like, well, when you get to know her, she's a nice person. Besides that, she'll talk crap about you. But I think we've also matured both as people, and again, I think if she's maybe not as close as a friend, but she's definitely an acquaintance. Somebody I wouldn't talk. I wouldn't talk bad behind because I don't have any reason to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's all always relative to who you know as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I feel like community is a sense of like I take pride in the community that I'm in. Right.
Me too. Yeah.
Like these are my people. This is what I love to do, and I love seeing us succeed. So when I see the Pokemon community is in shambles or like using that, I think just the Pokemon like what. Who are you talking about? You need to mention names. Yeah. I'm sorry. Like, I know you don't like drama, but you need to mention names because I do not see this at all in
also,
what I partake.
It's just kind of like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, you think like just playing Pokemon on YouTube make you a part of the community? Like, that's like, when I think community, I think of like people who intentionally have come together, or come together over a shared interest. But if you like, you have to come together for that, like, I don't really feel like, well, actually, I don't know. I don't feel like there's that much of a, like YouTube. I don't know. I feel like my experience with VGC has been completely opposite from my experience with like interacting with people on YouTube,
Yeah. And is that a bad thing or a good thing or?
I think it's just the nature of the game, but I feel like it's kind of, well, I don't really know actually. I feel like in VGC it's a competition that you'd expect it to be like more cutthroat, but it's generally like more like people are
chill.
Yeah,
really chill. They're nice.
Yeah, like it's like some of my fondest memories, actually talking about Brendan, I have really fond memories of what year? Worlds 18, I believe. God, I'm pretty sure. Where I'd been knocked out, but I got to like help coach Brendan for the rest of the tournament, and my other friends as well. But Brendan was going really far, and like that was such a like seeing him succeed and helping him figure out what to do, and like I made him stretch on the floor because that's like good for nerves. And I don't know, like seeing him do well, I was so proud, you know? Whereas on YouTube, like you feel like it's a shared pot, you know, like there's people can watch both you and me, you know, but I feel like just the general vibe I get is it feels more, and I think it's because it's people's living, whereas people just do VGC for fun, but it definitely feels more like intense from I mean, I'm not really involved. I don't really consider myself involved with the general like YouTube community, but it's, you know, obviously there's some exceptions. Like I don't get this vibe from you, obviously, or most of the people I've like met or like interacted with a lot, but yeah, it's definitely something that I think is interesting, and I want to think about more. You know, I don't know if you feel the same because I'm not like I said, I'm not really involved. This is just kind of my outside opinion.
For sure, it's the same thing. I mean, it's just based on like I feel like people are naturally just they could talk all they want behind their keyboard, but when in real life, like people are at the end of the day, I feel like really chill or at least normal or even more secluded than what they'd be. Just based on those interactions, I've always had pleasant interactions when I went to events. Whether it's me not saying who I am as well, because I don't like some people will recognize me as well, and based on my voice, like like I'll have somebody say, "Hey, are you Pokey?" And I'm like, "Nah, but I love the guy though. He's great." Like type of thing going on, but no, for the most part, I'll obviously tell them. But I've always had pleasant experiences. I felt like the community was extremely welcoming for me whenever I wanted to play. And I don't know. You don't always see that online because people are either, I don't even want to say hiding, but there's a term, there's safety, right? There's safety. It's also, this is like in terms of not only, you know, malicious intent, but also people being nice towards you as well, because it's a lot easier, I feel like, to talk to somebody you don't. I feel like at times it's a lot easier to talk to somebody you don't know, who's not judging you or who's not saying anything as well. So I think it goes both ways in terms of that too. Like not only people will be mean, but people will be also super nice or very different than when they are online. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just like, if you're always hyping me up, you're always saying this, I want to give you a hug when I see you, but if that's weird for you, my bad. Type of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it goes both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the most part, I very much like my community, and I hope that one day I'll be on one of those lists of people.
Yeah, I hope to make it on Twitter.
Yeah, you're verified, bro. There's a difference.
I just want to be sorted into a Harry Potter house. Is that too much to ask?
Dude, I was literally going to say that. I just want to go to Hogwarts, man. From somebody that I've never heard of up until this list came out.
Yeah.
Has a ton of subscribers type of thing. That's a big thing too, right? Like I care. It's not that I don't care. I care about my community. I care. This is very precious to me, right? Like this is my baby. My YouTube channel is my baby, right? And my friends as well, especially my really close friends, I keep them close. And people who I'm either friends with or acquaintances, I also keep them close. Like I'll keep them aloof. I always hit them up, hit them with a PK face type of thing, or talk to them occasionally, whatever happens, right? But I don't really know very many people outside of my circle.
Yeah.
Like I know of them. Like maybe if I hear a name, like, oh, they have a lot of subscribers, I'm gonna sub to them just because maybe when I'm scrolling through my subscription feed, they'll put up something that interests me or just to keep tabs of. But like when drama and stuff comes out, I'm like, what are you guys talking about? What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on behind closed doors? Like, what?
Yeah.
Can we just play Pokemon and upload it? Like,
it doesn't seem that hard, right? We're just trying to play a video game, but yeah, I guess it's not that easy for everybody. I'm the same way. Like I have my people and I don't normally like branch out a ton from it, but I've actually had some really positive experiences like as of late where I have interacted with people who I don't normally interact with. Like part of it is, so I've been streaming, I like have a Twitch community now, and it's like just like interacting with people through there. Like I'd never like because VGC for so long wasn't like really, we didn't have a stream for the first 2-3 years. Like it was like, and it was pretty small. It's grown a lot over the years. I like never had like, I don't know, like fans. Like it doesn't feel right. I don't know, because like it feels weird calling them fans because they feel more like friends to me. But
bro, dude, there are a lot of people that feel the same way as you, and I am one of them.
Yeah, like it's just yeah. And so like I don't know, but like I was really hesitant to start like a Twitch Discord because like I didn't like, I don't know, I just like wanted to play Pokemon and like compete. Like I didn't want to, like I felt weird to have like people like, I don't know, like looking up to, I don't know, it was just like I was younger too. Like it was kind of like a newer thing for me, but like I've met so many really, really great people. Like I saw a movie in Australia with one of the guys who's a Twitch sub, and it was like a really nice experience. And when I was in Australia as well, like I like from general VGC community, like not necessarily like in my Twitch Discord or anything, but like I stayed with some people who I'd either met very briefly or never at all. And I had like a really great time with them, and it was really kind of like eye-opening, where it was like, wow, there's like all these great people, and I should be like more open-minded when I'm getting to like know people, and like maybe try to reach out a little bit more, because my like those people were so great and like so friendly, and I really like I had the best time with them, and like who were hosting me in Australia when I was traveling, and were like so gracious and like really 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 great. And also like just in my general Twitch community, like they're so funny, and like I don't know, like I really like them a lot. And yeah, it's definitely been kind of a wake-up call in a sense to be like, wow, like okay, like obviously, like I mean it makes sense, like obviously there's good people I know, there's good people I don't know, but I was like like I should be more open-minded and like try to get to know people better, you know.
And it's interesting that you brought them together, right? Whether for the fact that they might like your play, they might like your hair, they might like this thing,
unlikely
things, right? maybe not anymore. You cut it, but yeah, like it's interesting that you'll bring these people together and you'll form your own community. And again, that community is your community, right? That's the community you're a part of, and that's not necessarily mine, like type of thing. And that's why like the whole thing, it all goes back to when they say the community is in shambles. Like what? Where? Who?
Not my community.
Yeah, exactly. Much. Mine is fine. Mine is chilling.
Yeah, my community is absolutely in shambles. I need saving.
It's the podcast deleting community. They keep saving their podcasts.
But yeah, I think it's really interesting to go back and see, because obviously me and you, we both play Pokemon, but we took a different path, right?
I think we're very similar in a lot of ways. Like every time I talk to you, I'm struck by that, and I feel like it wouldn't be that crazy if like I played singles and you played VGC. I think we'd still be like, I think it would still be similar, you know?
Even if it was like a different like reality type of thing?
Yeah. Like if the paths we taken were switched, like I feel like I guess I'm saying like I feel like if we'd taken the other's path, like we might have ended up in the same place that the current one is on, or at least similar, you know?
Yeah. No, I can see that. I learned that a lot too whenever I watch you play. Specifically when we were talking before I went to that VGC tournament, I think it was Hartford. I learned a lot from you. Like you talked a lot about positioning, and then when we played singles together, I tried to show you the same thing that you showed me. I tried to show you how it's not always about taking one for one, but like how we could have taken I don't know if you remember the video, but it was a sense where we had a Volcarona that could easily sweep, or we had something that could easily sweep. And like you were saying the right calls, right? But that it was the right calls for like maybe turn 23, turn 24. But I was like looking at turn 29 where we could just win the game. So I tried to show you. Yeah, I tried to show you exactly what you were showing me. Yeah, because like wow, this is so similar, and you definitely gave me a different outlook on the game as well.
Yeah, I feel like I've learned a lot playing singles as well. Like I feel like it's improved my VGC, like through you and also through doing draft leagues as well.
Yeah, it just is like, I personally want to get into VGC as well, and I'm hoping that would Sword and Shield.
Sword and Shield. Think about it.
Things just get so busy, right? But
yeah, I know.
I do know for a fact, and I've seen it myself when I played, and also you reaffirmed that just thought that I have that every single generation is different. In terms, I mean, I know every single generation is different.
No, but it's really different
in terms of like what you need to know. Like I could have been. Imagine I was just amazing at 2011, but then I come to 2019 playing the game. I still have the knowledge of all the Pokemon, but I'm not winning because I'm playing like I'm playing in 2011, right?
Yeah,
it's like every generation is different. So maybe we'll play for that. Again, there's a lot that goes down when it comes to that because I obviously focus a lot on singles, and I'm very passionate about that too. But yeah, VGC is definitely something I've always wanted to try and get into.
I want to get into some singles tournaments, by the way. So if there's ever any that I can enter, I'm like,
I'll
let me know what I need.
No, for sure. There's a lot of there's like 2 specific or 3 specific ones where you can play yourself and actually get a time to shine on that just by putting in, right?
Yeah.
And then team tournaments come with
I want to be on a team tournament.
Team tournaments come with doing well on that, but I mean you could probably do for VGC for doubles because they have doubles. Yeah. Like I know Aaron's been drafted. Chris Danzo, my boy.
Yeah, he's great.
Drafted a lot. He's Lunar on Smogon. So
yeah, Lunar. He was Lunar on VGC as well for a while.
Wow, my boy MBC as well. Like there's
he's the best. Yeah.
So like we have just a whole lot of things. So that's definitely something. I think Key, if the storm didn't make you DC, did you want to start hitting him with them questions?
Yeah, we should probably wrap up pretty soon because I'm hungry.
Me too. I think. Do we not have it? No. All right. So I'll take it away then.
All right.
But so this is a little section, guys, that we started with the Shady Penguin podcast that we did last week. But basically, Key will be leading it for the most part. But I know he's having a stormy weather right now. But we just shoot 6 questions at our person, and they answer them. They don't necessarily have to do anything with the topic. So the first one is, if you were an inanimate object,
Can we do?
what
Wait,
would
can we
you
do
be?
this one last? Because this is
You
the one
want
I
to do
need
this
to
one
do
last?
most
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. What trait do you admire in others but don't possess yourself?
yeah. I think that work ethic is the big one. Like, I think that things have always come kind of naturally to me, and I think because of that, like, I don't have a terrible work ethic, but it could be a lot better, and I could definitely be lazy at times. And so, I think that's something when I see someone who just has the ability to just work really like hard, that's something that I am working on myself and trying to get there. But it's ironic because for most things, if you want to get better, you just work harder. But if you want to get better at working harder, like, and you can't work hard,
I mean,
you know?
that's more so about like time management, I feel too. That's
Yeah, for
something.
me, I do a good job with time management, but I do a bad job of like using the time well, you know?
You'll chop out like a block for you, but then you won't actually
Or, like, lie around.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
What's the coolest project you've ever worked on?
Mm,
And it's cool as in relative to you.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I'm trying to think.
I'm not gonna like just because maybe the coolest project for you is like you made an assortment of cheese boards and sold it. I'm not gonna make fun of you for that. For one, I
Yeah.
love cheese. Cheese. Is
Yeah,
amazing.
I feel like people are crazy about cheese. I'm like neutral on cheese. Like, I like it. Although I had some good cheese last night, but that's beside the point. I feel like, honestly, the world's team. Like, I know it's kind of cheesy, and because I've done a lot of stuff. I mean, I really liked working as an RA. Like, I really loved running track in high school. Like, that was really rewarding.
Agreed.
It's not really a project. Obviously, there was a point where I tried to make a documentary for Pokemon, but that fell pretty flat. So rest in peace. And the Onog Invitational, if you remember that one, I like that as well. But
Yeah.
I feel like the thing that I'm the most proud of is that Worlds team. Like, it really is kind of my our masterpiece, Marcus and Brendan and mine.
and dude, you got the best results possible out of it.
Yeah, we really
Going
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So in a Freaky Friday situation
Oh, boy.
where you woke up in someone else's body, who would you like to be for a day and have them inhabit your body? So that's a big question because
That's a big
it's not
question.
only who you want to be for a day,
Right.
but someone has to be you for a day.
Oh boy. I would like to be Aaron Zhang. I think I would have so much fun. Can you
I
imagine?
I feel like you just run around saying Aaron Cybertron, thank you. Just
Like,
opening up doors.
But the problem is that, like, so Aaron's like a really great guy, but the thing is, like, so I'm somebody who, like, I kind of troll a little bit all the time. But, like, the thing is, with Aaron doesn't normally troll, but when he does, like, he's like the master. Like, he like when Aaron gets serious about being goofy. Like, I remember there was one time I was thinking about recently where, like, some, like, people were always like taking jabs at him on Twitter, and he like fired back once, and it was like brutal. He roasted Moody Man, I think, and I still think about it. This is like at least a year ago, so it would be dangerous. I would just have to hope, like, I have to be careful because that, like, he's so funny, and if he really wanted to be, he would be like he can be a good troll when he wants to be. But
Yeah.
I feel like he wouldn't do that much, but we'd have to see.
He's definitely super like interesting as a person. I love Aaron.
He's
Like
so
I absolutely
smart,
love Aaron. He just like I don't want to take too much away because these are obviously your questions. But like he is really good at balancing work and play. That's one thing I'll say about him. Like he will put on he will be his he's put on his best behavior and his best clothes for this. But then if you're chilling with him, like he just it's like whoa. Like when I heard Aaron in real life, I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool though. Like I've had the I've driven him to like events and we've chilled a lot. I like him. We never like chilled one-on-one outside of like it. And I hope that one day we can though. Okay, what is the best compliment you've ever received? It's a tough one.
It's tough, right? Yeah.
Well, what's the compliment that meant the most to you? Rather, that's a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because I'm like I hate arrogance, and so I always tried to stay humble. But the problem is, I think sometimes I do that in like a way that like when people tell me nice things, I'm like, oh no, I can't listen to this, so I just like ignore it.
It just works away.
And one day you're out the other. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Give me like 10 seconds. No,
it's fine. It's fine. Again, guys, in the future, like we give them these questions. They're random in terms of relative to the podcast itself, but we do try to give them in advance. But because Wolf's podcast was before Shady's, the original one was before Shady's, and we started this with Shady Penguin. It's like we never gave you the questions in advance, because we didn't know we were going to do it. Right?
Yeah. I think something, I'm not sure if it's the best one, but something that's always stuck with me is one time one of my friends described me as like fiercely loyal. And that's something that I like. I care a lot about being loyal and like loyalty, and that I could talk about that for a while. But yeah, I think that's one of the things that I really value in myself is that I really stick by my people. You know?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Is there anything you vowed never to do?
I actually don't I don't drink and I've never drank and I've never done any drugs or anything, and I'm like 23 at this point, so yeah, that's something that I don't think I ever will. Well, okay, technically I was like in second grade once, and I'm Jewish, and it was like Shabbat, and like I wanted grape juice and they gave me wine and I had like a sip and it was really gross, but other than that I've never drank.
All right, and the final question: if you were an inanimate object, what would you be and why? Pick anything. Pick anything.
I want to be a bird, but birds aren't inanimate. Let's see. What would I be? I think I'd be like one of those merry-go-rounds, like the one where you have to not like the one where you have to like it's like in parks and do there's like metal bars you hold onto and you can like run around the outside and then hop on and it spins. Yeah. I think I'd be that.
You wouldn't think you'd like throw up? I guess you're an inanimate object.
No, I'm. Have you seen a merry-go-round throw up? I don't think so.
You're right. So why would you be that? So why would you be that?
Like, I feel like it's chaotic and like I don't know, like it's goofy and like I don't know, like it's like a little dangerous, you know, but like not really. Most people are probably fine, but like I don't know. I have this image of like kids like going flying off it, and I'm like, yeah, like I could roll with that. If I had more time, I could probably come up with a better answer, but at least it's
no. I think these are good anyway. So. Yeah, we'll end it with that. Like I said, guys, that'll normally be Keys. Thank you so much, by the way, Bort, for being on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Let them know where they can find you.
You can find me at twitter.com/CybertronVGC. Wolfie Glick on Twitter. Wolfie, I actually don't know. Am I Wolfie VGC or Wolfie Glick on you? I think it's Wolfie VGC. It's fine. Yeah, like I don't know.
He'll be linked. Like there'll be links of him everywhere. But
everywhere. I'll be advertising in Times Square.
Thank you so much for being on, bro. I really do appreciate you taking the time, and thank you for being on twice. That's a big thing too.
Yeah, no, I mean I enjoy this a lot. It's a lot of fun for me.
Well, I appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time on The Lock. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.